Jay Stratton has come out of the shadows. That's right, Axelrod, one of the people most responsible for our current state of UFO disclosure, intimately connected with ATIP and OSAP, the UAP task force, Skinwalker Ranch, etc., has finally come out of the shadows and gone on camera with an interview with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. This is amazing. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Please share this video on social media when it drops, and consider joining me on Facebook and Twitter. Links are below. And also, please comment on the story as I'm going through it. Now, I love Jay Stratton, even though I know very little about him and have seen very little of him, because he has been very, almost notoriously quiet about all of this, not even allowing the authors of the recent book Skinwalkers at the Pentagon to use his real name. They called him Axelrod, and which is an interesting callback to a previous figure in UFO lore. Look up the Ingo Swann story with Axelrod. Very interesting that they use that pseudonym for Jay Stratton. But yeah, a super intriguing figure who, really is, I think, responsible for a lot of what we're seeing and is a huge player involved in all this. Well, he sat down with George and Jeremy. They had their third episode of Weaponized, a really great podcast that I'm so glad that they've started. And they've already released the Mosul Orb pick and had interviews with active Navy servicemen talking about UFOs. Really, really good stuff. He did a somewhat in-depth interview with those guys for the podcast. I'm not going to show that full interview because it's pretty long and there's no particularly juicy parts of it. So instead, I'm going to show the news footage George Knapp did for his news program. And it actually is very intriguing. Not just the parts with Jay Stratton, aka Axelrod, but also some of the other stuff about James Latatsky. It actually gives some details about the James Latatsky OSAP situation that I didn't know, and I just made a video about it like yesterday. I'll tell you what I learned, and maybe you will have learned something too, but I'll play the video first, and maybe you can be surprised by it just as I was. Okay, here's the video, and then we can talk about it.
Aviators and sensors off the coast of San Diego in 2004, the incident was dropped, not investigated. The first in-depth probe happened 5 years later under the auspices of a then secretive program called OSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program, created by the Defense Intelligence Agency with black budget funding spearheaded by Nevada Senator Harry Reid. Tic Tac was the first UFO incident tackled by OSAP and its contractor, Las Vegas aerospace pioneer Robert Bigelow. The report was released by us in 2018. Jay Stratton is the man who wrote it.
Every time I've done anything related to UAP or UFO has been my job. And what I mean by that, I didn't really have a passion growing up. I didn't have all the books. I didn't watch all the TV shows. I stepped into a job at the Defense Intelligence Agency where some things came across the desk.
From 2008 until 2021, pretty much everything UFO related came across Jay Stratton's desk. He made the decision to ditch the term UFO and use UAP instead, unidentified aerial phenomena. Stratton worked at the highest levels of naval intelligence, then was loaned to the DIA, where he excelled at reverse engineering. He and his colleague, rocket scientist Dr. James Latatsky, kept seeing reports of unknown craft, but learned there was no central location where such mysteries were being analyzed.
You know, all the stories you hear, right, there's probably the office that deals with this. And as we tried to find that office, we found nothing.
So they created one. Stratton's colleague, Dr. Lakatsky, had been reading about a UFO hotspot nicknamed Skinwalker Ranch. After a visit to the Utah property, Lakatsky pitched the creation of a formal investigation. Harry Reid agreed to fund it. Robert Bigelow landed the contract. Stratton consulted with the OSAP program and then with its successor, ATIP. When the head of ATIP, Lou Elizondo, resigned and revealed its existence to the New York Times in 2017, Stratton was asked by his boss if he'd jump back in and cobble together a new program. He did, and that effort was eventually formalized by Congress with a new name, the UAP Task Force. One of Stratton's projects was the creation of a comprehensive but classified briefing that included UAP videos and photos collected by the military. Most of those images are still unreleased, but a few objects encountered off the East Coast and even stranger objects buzzing Navy ships on the West Coast were leaked, then publicized. Stratton scoffs at the debunkers who tried to explain them away as flares or drones or birds.
Whoa, splashed.
So there's a lot of cleanup to do when you have a lot of these people saying it's birds or whatever they're saying. It's frustrating because you know the rest of the story and you can't tell the rest of the story.
In 2021, Stratton left the task force, but his work formed the basis of a stunning report to Congress. Stratton's chief scientist was Dr. Travis Taylor, now well known for his television appearances. Of 144 incidents investigated by the task force, 143 were considered unidentified. Stratton and Taylor now work for Radiance Technologies, a defense contractor with offices in 17 states, including Nevada. When Stratton and Taylor showed up in the audience of an Alabama UAP conference last summer, UFO circles were abuzz with questions about what their employer might be up to. Filmmaker Jeremy Corbell brought his cameras to record our interviews. Stratton admitted there are still more questions than answers.
You probably remember the infamous quote from Congress that, let's hope it's aliens.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.
Wasn't that fascinating? Okay, so the part that really struck me was that James Latatsky and Jay Stratton were actually considering creating some sort of organization to investigate UFOs when James Latatsky went out to Skinwalker Ranch. I just made a video like yesterday talking about some of the weird things that happened when he went out there. Many of us who have studied Skinwalker Ranch will be, familiar with the story of the floating Mobius loop thing that he saw that appeared just for him, and which spurred on the creation of OSAP and BASS. But what I didn't know was that when he went out there and when he saw that, it was already in his mind to create some sort of program to investigate this. And when he saw that, he was realized, okay, well, this is where we need to go. This is where we need to study. So that is a really interesting element in all of this. And I had not been aware of that. I've read the book. I've seen, all the material that I can around these incidents. But yeah, that is a piece of the puzzle that I didn't know. If you want to know more about what Jay Stratton has to say, I recommend watching the full interview. I will link to both the podcast, the Weaponized Episode 3, as well as the news piece made by George Knapp in the description below, and you can watch one or both at your leisure. At any rate, it's awesome that Jay Stratton is out there, and I'm looking forward to, hopefully, a new era of Jay Stratton when he will be making the rounds and doing all the talk shows and the podcast and the interviews. Of course, what interests me most is the werewolves. The dude has been haunted by werewolves. I don't even mean to say that in such an excited voice, but I can't help it. I'm a horror movie fan. I love werewolves. However, I would not want to be haunted by a freaking werewolf, and that just sounds terrifying. My heart goes out to him and his family, because apparently they have been haunted, or they had been haunted. I don't know if that has ended or not. But when he came back from Skinwalker Ranch, he had a hitchhiker, and it was a two-legged wolf-like monster with glowing red eyes that terrorized him and his family, apparently for years. and it may still be ongoing to this day. And so I really want to know more details about that. Is that the Skinwalker? Is that some sort of projection or phantom, something conjured from their fears? What is that? Is that a screensaver or something to distract them, that the phenomenon created to distract them while it is actually doing something to them, something to arrest their attention so that it can, do whatever alien abduction-y things or whatever it wants to do? Because that is seemingly how the phenomenon works. Sometimes it uses these screensavers to get your attention while it does whatever it wants to do, is a going theory, and there is some evidence to back that up. So that's one of the questions that I hope he addresses. I'm very fascinated by that and by his other hitchhiker type phenomena that he has experienced. I've done some ghost hunting, and I've talked before about my own very negative interaction with a negative entity at a haunted location. And so this stuff, intrigues me greatly, and I think it's actually important because you can interact with these things and have, either positive or negative outcomes. And we need to know more about the reality that we are living in. But he has a lot more to say other than being haunted by a werewolf. He, like I say, he is intimately connected in OSAP, BASS, Skinwalker Ranch, ATIP, the UAP task force, and now he and Travis Taylor may or may not be reverse engineering alien technology with Radiance Technologies. The dude is super fascinating, so I can't wait for the era of Jay Stratton. Bring it on. What do you think, guys, about this video? Leave your comments below. Please give me a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Hit that like button, and please hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. And talk to you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.